Welcome to Lesson 1. In this lesson, we will focus on creating a new database and adding a new table. To begin working with SQL Server Express 2008, you will need to launch SQL Server Management Studio. From the Start menu, click on All Programs, then click on the folder Microsoft SQL Server 2008. Finally, click on SQL Server Management Studio. You will then be prompted to connect to your SQL Server instance. Ensure that server type reads Database Engine, server name reads the instance you created, and authentication reads Windows Authentication. Click Connect. Now that you are in Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, you will notice an Object Explorer window on your left-hand side. Right-click on the Databases folder and select New Database. You will be presented with a new database dialog window. In the database name field, enter Joe's Hardware. Leave owner as default. You will notice in the database files section there is two files. An MDF file, which is essentially the database, and the log file. These files will increase automatically as the database size grows. Press OK to continue. From the Object Explorer window, expand the Databases folder to see the new database you have just created. The first thing we need to do now is create a new table to store information. To do this, expand Joe's Hardware and right-click on the Tables folder and select New Table. You will now be presented with a further two windows, a New Table window and a Properties window. In a New Table window, click into the column name cell and add a new field called Customer ID with no spacing. In the data type cell, select int from the drop-down list. Notice that by default, the Allow Nows checkbox is ticked. Highlight the Customer ID row by clicking on the row selector. With the row highlighted, click on the Set Primary Key icon. This is the gold key icon above the Object Explorer. You will notice a gold key next to the Customer ID column. Also, the Allow Nows checkbox is now unchecked. Making this column a primary key essentially means that this column now has to contain a unique value. Therefore, it no longer allows nulls. With the Customer ID column highlighted, scroll down the column Properties until you get to Identity Specification. Expand this section and set the following values. Is identity equals yes, identity increment equals 1, identity seed equals 1. By making this an identity column, its value will be automatically set with every new record added to the table. For example, with the first row added, the Customer ID value will be 1, as we have set the identity seed to 1. The second record will have a value of 2, as we have set the identity increment to 1. The third row will be 3, etc. Now let's add a second field by going back to the column name and entering company name in the second row. Assign it a data type of varchar 50 from the drop-down list. This means that we're allowing a company name to have up to 50 alphanumeric characters. Leave the Allow Nows checkbox ticked, which is essentially saying that this is not a required field. Add a third column called First Name and assign it a data type of varchar 50. You can change the varchar length in two ways. Either overwrite the 50 with 20, or navigate down column Properties until you get to length, and change the value there. As with the company name column, leave the Allow Nows value checked. Now continue to add the remaining fields as shown in your lesson guide. Once you have entered all the fields, press the Save icon. You will be prompted to enter a name for the table. Give it a name of customers and click on OK. From the Object Explorer window, expand the Tables folder and you will see the new table you have just created. This concludes Lesson 1.